Activists in the Syrian capital Damascus say that government forces have opened fire on worshippers outside a mosque in the suburb of Midan. But there's been conflicting reports on Syrian state television of a so-called terrorist bombing at the mosque. At least 9 people are said to have been killed and 22 injured. It follows an announcement by Special Envoy Kofi Annan that a second group of UN monitors will arrive in the country on Monday. Due to reporting restrictions in Syria, Al Jazeera's Rula Amin is in Beirut in neighbouring Lebanon. Rula, it's incredibly difficult to get a handle on what has actually happened today in Damascus, isn't it?
Yes, but the bottom line of it is that there are 3 explosions. We just got news of a 3rd explosion in an area called Adawi, and that's near the agriculture department of Damascus University. We're not clear yet how serious and how big this explosion is, if there are casualties or not, but it's confirmed both by the pro-government media and the activists. The biggest explosion so far is in al-Midan neighborhood. That's the neighborhood you referred to. And it's probably the most rebellious neighborhood in Damascus, the capital. Every Friday since the start of this uprising, there's been protest in that area near one of the mosques there. And what we have gathered from activists and from what we're hearing from the government media is that it seems there was a suicide bomber who approached a group of security men, many in plain clothes, and he detonated himself with them. Usually the place that had been described as the place of the explosion is usually where all the security is deployed, waiting for the protest to start following Friday noon prayers. So it seems there are 3 coordinated attacks. But as usual, you get an exchange of blame between the government and the opposition blaming the government that it was behind these explosions in order to prove its point, it's fighting armed groups, and the government blaming terrorist groups of trying to destabilize the country, and they want to show that this is what they are fighting.
All right, so that's happening in Damascus, the capital. What about the rest of the country?
Well, we got reports of more protests, demonstrations, confrontations with the security forces, in some areas even shelling. Now, we didn't see large numbers. It's not thousands of people on the streets, but it's almost in every other city or village. Sometimes it's a few dozens of people. In other areas, it's a few hundreds. We got word now from Idlib. This is probably one of the hottest spots in the country. And I just spoke to an activist there who said that the UN observers arrived in Idlib just an hour ago following confrontations between the protesters and the security forces. He said they came to Idlib escorted by a lot of heavy security. He was one of the people who spoke to them. They couldn't tell them much, he said, because they were scared. They saw a lot of security around and from far away, and they were concerned that they would be picked up by the security following this encounter with the observers. But still, for people on the ground, it's very significant that the observers do get to Idlib. This is one of the areas that really suffered from the government crackdown. It's far away in the country, and what's happening there usually does not get reported.
Well, many thanks, Rula Amin in Beirut.